Hi, hey, I'm Morgan, and today I'm going to bring you my October wrap-up and November TBR. Normally I do these as like two separate videos unless I don't read a lot of books in the previous month, and that's the case for this month. It's not that I didn't have a good reading month because one of the books that I read was massive, but I did only read 3 books, but one of those books was 1,200 pages, so I can't really be too mad about my reading accomplishments this month because I did read such a massive book. Like I've been doing with my most recent wrap-ups, I'm going to be going in order of rating from my lowest rated book to my highest rated book as opposed to chronological order. I just think that's a better way for me to organize my wrap-ups. So yeah. The first book I'm going to talk about is one that I just barely finished, and I'm still kind of sitting with my final rating for it, so I haven't updated my Goodreads yet, but that is It by Stephen King. I started this back in March, and then I set it down until this month. I only read like 200 pages of it back in March. I just wasn't ready to be thrown into such a thick writing style. Obviously, this is a very popular book going around, especially since the movie just came out. This is about a small town in Maine called Derry, and a lot of terrible things happen in Derry. One of those especially being that children have been going missing and are dying. There's 7 kids and they're part of this club called the Losers Club. They uncover that there is this ancient evil in Derry that comes back every 27 years and is killing the children. This was a lot. Like I said, this book is nearly 1,200 pages. I listened to this half physically and half on audiobook, which was a first for me. I'm really not an audiobook person, or at least I thought I wasn't, but I think it just depends on the narrator. I've discovered that I really can't read audiobooks where the narrator is just dryly reading the book. The audiobook I listened to was narrated by Steven Weber, and it was amazing. Stephen King does not write things lightly. There's nothing that Stephen King really glazes over with his writing, which I really enjoy. I'm sitting between a 3 and a 3.5 out of 5 stars for this book. It was really great. It's, classic King. It was spooky, but I do have some issues with it. I understand that a majority of this book takes place in 1950s small town Maine. It was really full of slurs, and there's a lot of derogatory language towards people of color, towards members of the LGBTQ community. It was very much saturated with that. There's literally chapters where it says the N-word over 30 times. It made me uncomfortable. I would also put a trigger warning for those that are sensitive to sexual assault, to domestic violence, because that took me off guard and it made me really uncomfortable. And I want people that are thinking about reading this book to know what's in it before diving right in. I liked it, but there were some things that I found issues with, so it's not a perfect book, but it definitely brought the scary vibes for Halloween. The fact that I finally tackled this monster of a book, I feel like I can accomplish anything. And the next book that I'm going to talk about, I rated a 4 out of 5 stars, and that was Misery by Stephen King. This was the Hot Mess Book Club Book of the Month for October, and I really enjoyed it. It's about this best-selling novelist named Paul Sheldon, and he's really popular for this series he wrote called the Misery series. Paul decides that he wants to end the series by killing off the protagonist, Misery Chastain. Paul goes to Colorado to celebrate the finishing of his newest work, and he gets in this terrible car accident. Paul is taken into the care of his self-proclaimed biggest fan, Annie Wilkes. When Annie finds out that Paul has killed off Misery, she is not happy about it, and she holds Paul captive and makes him write a new book in the series just for her. Some of the things that she puts Paul through are so brutal, and this book was just so intense. Stephen King's writing is so immersive and so in-depth, and you can really just sink into it. It got really intense, and the fact that I read 2 Stephen King books this month already put the spooky factor up here. It was a great, great time. And the last book that I read this month is the one that I rated 5 out of 5 stars to, and one that I just barely posted a review for on my channel, and that would be Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. You knew it was coming! This book was absolutely phenomenal. It has great OCD representation, it's beautiful, it's not a love cure novel, it's not super like saturated with romance like John Green's previous books are. I cannot speak more highly of this book if I wanted to. I highly recommend it, especially if you're looking for good OCD representation in YA. This is definitely the place to go. It's one of my favorite releases of the year. It's my favorite John Green book. I'm so jazzed about it. So those are all the books that I read in October, and my TBR, I'm setting my standards pretty low, so that way if I go above them, I feel accomplished. The first book I'm going to talk about is, of course, the Hot Mess Book Club pick for November, and that would be Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I am very excited to finally read this book. It's about a young man named Simon, and he is a gay teen, but he is not out yet. He is corresponding with a young man over emails. They don't know each other, but he knows that he goes to his school. One of the emails is left up on the school computer, and somebody reads it and basically blackmails Simon. I'm pretty excited about this. I heard it's like really sweet and kind of gushy. And I've heard Becky Albertalli writes really diversely and writes wonderfully. I am really, really excited to finally read this book and to talk about it at the end of the month at our live show. The next book that I am going to try to read in November is Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. This is about a girl named Eliza who runs a really popular webcomic called Monsters C, and she runs it anonymously. And she just keeps that separate from her real life because she has really bad anxiety. And then a boy transfers to her school who writes fan fiction for her webcomic, and things take off from there. I got this back in my Owl Crate for May, and I still haven't read this. I'm going to try to get caught up on my Owl Crate books before I continue my subscription with Owl Crate, but I am really, really excited to get into this, especially if there's anxiety representation. If you're new here, the girl has anxiety and OCD and tries to read as many mental health related books as possible. The next book I'm planning on reading is another book that came in Owl Crate, and it came in this past Owl Crate, and that is Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. This is a magical realism story about this family that have abilities to like grow flowers with their hands or something, and that's really all I know about it, and that's all I want to know about it. Off the top of my head, I don't think I've read any magical realism ever. I'm really, really excited to dive into this one. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about it. And like I said, I'm trying to somewhat catch up and read all of my previous Owl Crate books before I continue on with my subscription, because I don't want to fall behind and have like 30 Owl Crate books and not have read a single one. And the last book that I'm going to try to shoot for is I plan on doing a drunk review of this book, and that is Hot Pterodactyl Boyfriend by Alan Cumin. This is literally about a girl that falls in love with a pterodactyl, and that's all I need to know going into this book. Look out for the episode of Drunk Discussions where I talk about this book, because I am sure I'm going to have a lot of feelings about it. Because who wrote this? Who thought of this? But you guys, there you have it. That was my October wrap-up and November TBR. I hope to get to more books in November than just those 4 that I mentioned, but I like to set my bar kind of low, so that way if I go above anything else, it's something of an accomplishment. If you like this video, be sure to give it like a thumbs up, and let me know what you read in October and what you plan on reading in November. If you filmed a wrap-up or TBR video, let me know that too so I can go watch it. Sometimes people's videos don't come up in my subscription box, or I am just like, I fall behind with BookTube so terribly. And if you'd like to see more of my content, you can always subscribe. I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But like I said, my name is Morgan. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and happy reading. Okay, bye! I really like this like janitor vibes shirt. It says beer for good damn good, and I relate.